All right. And we are in there. Well, hello, Tiffany. How are you? It's good to see you.
Hey, Nori, I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to have you. So, you and I have been working together now for a few months, a little bit longer. It feels like it's been forever. Doesn't
It
it feel like
does.
forever?
It's so organic. Yeah, legit feels like forever.
So, tell me a little bit about what brought you to the Nori Palmaso family, the Self Trust Mastery family.
So random. We were in a class together and you just had this energy, I'm a huge like Mr. Rogers fan from back in the day. I used to do some youth sports work. And he's like, find the helpers, right? Like that's always the thing that sticks out to me. And when he talked about it, he's talking about police officers and firefighters. But within the group, you were a helper. You were just like, oh, okay, well, let me give you this idea. Let me give you that idea. I was like, okay, I love that energy. And we scheduled a call just random to help me with the issue I was facing in the course. And you weren't pitching me at all. I was like, how can I work with you? Like this sounds like I love the work that you described you were doing. And then once I joined at the top of the year, it just felt like home. I mean, just legit a sisterhood where you called me on my stuff, you know what I mean? And in a way that really worked. And I often am like the person who everybody comes to fix the things. And so to have someone who could see me and really allow me to be authentic and just share my struggles and cheerlead me at the same time. I mean, yeah, you're family.
You're my sister. You know I love you, girl. So thank you so much for sharing. It's been amazing to work with you and to even see your evolution through this process because when we started working together, you were like, I'm trying to do all the things. And I was like, okay, girl, but you know, we can't do all the things at the same time, right? Like that doesn't work like that. But I want you to tell us a little bit about what is it that you do? Because I think you're one of the reasons why I wanted to work with you is because you're just so amazing. You're super dynamic. You do really great work. And I was so moved by everything that you are envisioning for yourself in your life. And even in the midst of the transitions that you've experienced, you have been such resilient during that process and obedient in the way to your healing. So I really want you to tell us a little bit about what is it that Tiffany does? Who is this amazing, dope person out here with this lippy? Y'all see this? Y'all see this energy? This is the energy that we need to be on, all of us. So tell me a little bit about what are you doing? What is your business about? And let's get into that.
Yes. So I help busy, ambitious women give up the good enough life, right? So that they can really win at work, succeed at home, and design lives they absolutely love. Not like, oh, it's okay. I like, no, like that you love it. Like you get one life and you deserve to love it. So how do I do that? Just really by teaching that word that you said, resilience, and helping people bounce back from tough situations and recognize that uncertainty is certain and kind of fill their toolbox so that they are prepared when those things happen. The pandemic has shown us like nothing else. All of life shows us, but the pandemic has shown us like nothing else that we are going to constantly be challenged, and sometimes in very crazy ways. And what it's also shown us, though, is that whether or not we thought we were resilient, the fact that we're having this conversation, the fact that we're still here is that we are, right? So each of us, everybody listening, anybody saying this has been resilient, whether or not you identify yourself as that. But the She Plays movement really helps you hone into the pillars of resilience so that you ready, what Tiffany had to say, she ready. So just so that you can be ready at each and every turn and really not get stuck when obstacles come, but just keep moving towards designing a life that you love.
Mm-hmm. First of all, I love that. And I have two questions that I want to ask about that. First, I want you to talk a little bit about what is the good enough life? Because I have not heard it been described like that before, but that is a word. And I want to know, I'm in your business. I want to know, what does that mean to you and to your clients?
So in general, it means like, accepting the job that's good enough, accepting the day-to-day activities that are good enough, and I mean, literally like exactly what it says. For me personally, we don't have enough time on this, but what's so funny is I had checked all of these boxes, very esteemed boxes, right? You know, I graduated from high school when I was 16. I had finished my bachelor's by the time I was 20. I came out working for the #1 accounting firm in the nation. By the time I was 23, I was a CPA. I had traveled to 4 of the 7 continents by the time I was 27, right? And people were like, oh, that's not a good enough life. Like, that's turned up. But all of those things were really done to prove other people wrong, like to prove the things that people said I couldn't do. And don't get me wrong, it fired me up, it kept me going, it moved me, it motivated me. And then I went on, I met my husband in Brazil. I then had 3 kids so cute they could model, just this whole thing where you just like check, 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 check. I left corporate and I started my own business, and I was able to exceed my salary in the first year of business. And so I was living what others would think is like the life. And in my mind, I was so caught up in the doing of the things that I don't even think until I crashed that I realized that I wasn't happy, or that that was just the good enough life. And when I started to feel like I wasn't happy, I felt guilty about it. Like, your life is good. It ain't even just good enough. Like, it's good. How dare you be unhappy? How dare you want more? How dare you, it's like you reach the mountaintop and you almost have this feeling like, is this all there is? And then you feel bad about it because there's so many other people who haven't experienced all of these great things. And you kind of, or at least I got pigeonholed in like, this is good enough, like, stop, you're greedy, like all of these negative connotations. And honestly, no, that was just the good enough life. And it was really a lot of public success and private struggle. And it wasn't even like I was putting on airs, or not intentionally. Like, in my mind, you just don't run to social media and tell your problem. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm putting up all the good stuff and I'm not saying the bad stuff. In my mind, it was just, there's a place for everything. But again, I ran a youth sports program based on social emotional intelligence, and kind of using sports just as a shiny object, and then really bringing out those life skills in the children: resilience, perseverance, self-confidence. And yet in my own home, I was existing in a very toxic marriage. Great guy in a lot of ways, but very poor behaviors that were negatively impacting myself and my children. And so it was like I was receiving all of these awards and acclaim, and I'm a community change maker, and yet at home it's a mess. Like, that's the good enough life, right? Where I could just stick with this, but no, I want a life that I love, And so just making the bold jump to going after more, crazy.
First of all, one of the reasons why I love having these conversations is because I learned so much from y'all. Like, no matter how much time I spend talking to my clients on a regular basis, there's always something that I get to learn from you and your journey. Like, I had no idea that you had graduated high school at 16, that you had traveled to 4 continents by the time you had graduated undergrad. And it's just so like empowering to hear that you can go through this journey and experience all these things and achieve all these things, right? And not make it to the mountaintop and not necessarily enjoy the view, but still come out of that with the resilience that I believe that you have and that you are embodying on a regular basis. And there is so much that you just share that, girl, I know this, my conversation is usually about an hour, but like, I'm feeling like, listen, this might have to be like a part 1, part 2, because there's just so much there to talk about. How did you navigate those feelings of your life is good, not even good enough, good, and you're not happy, and you're feeling guilty for not being happy with this life that other people have deemed to be more than good enough? How did you navigate that?
I look back now and and when I say look back, I mean, this is an everyday, like this is an everyday journey. I don't think it's something that ever is actually complete, right? But I look back now and I know that it was the universe, like source energy, just like placing the right people, the right opportunity, the right word, the right sign in my purview. And I think one thing that is like a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is like ordinary. Anybody can really do it. But the thing that I feel like is extraordinary about me is that I'm extremely open-minded. Like, and I'm radically curious, and I'm always looking for an answer, a sign, the next thing. And so I just leaned a bit into my intuition to say, something's not quite right. And this is not how it has to be. Mm-hmm. And, what's the one next thing that you can do? And I also think that I have a great sister circle. And when I say that, I don't mean like my 3 besties that are constant in my life all the time, but I think that good energy attracts good energy. And so just like I found you, there's always been some other woman in my circle at that time that helps me to get to the next thing. And not so I have a little bit of a story on how this happened, but do you want me to tell it?
Listen, we got time. We got time. Tell us the story. I want to hear all the tea. All the tea. I want it.
So I recently shared this. I had a keynote for TransUnion, and I was very iffy about whether or not.
Congratulations, number one, because this is the first time I hear about it. I mean, after it has happened, I've heard about that we were doing the keynote, but this is the first time is the post conversation. So
yes,
congratulations are in order for you.
Thank you. Yes. So that was like one of my first back to corporate experiences. And so I was very iffy about how much I would share, but I just wanted to show up authentic, right? And I just wanted to show because these issues are universal for women, whether you're corporate, whether you're entrepreneurial, no matter where you are, rich, poor, black, white, all the things. And so I told them a story about how I was driving in my car from Milwaukee to Chicago to take my daughters to a model casting. And they were maybe like 4 or 5 years old at the time. I don't necessarily remember, but like the cutest little things. And I'm like racing both down the expressway and in my mind, because I don't want to be late. You know me, I'm always like right on time. And then I have a flight to catch the next morning out to DC. And so I'm thinking, I'm not gonna get to see my mom. I'm not gonna get to see my grandmother, who are all in Chicago, because I'm gonna have to go here and come right back and pack and cook for the husband and cook for my son, and then get ready to hop on this flight. And I am really running on fumes, exhausted. My best friend calls, and it gives me like a glimpse of joy because I haven't talked to her in forever. And as I go to pick up the phone, it falls. And I teased and said, in that space where all of the car wash people get rich, like right in between your seat, between your seat and where you rest your arms. So all that temporary joy was just like out the window. And I'm like trying to reach my little hand in between the seat to grab the phone, and I end up having to throw her on Bluetooth, and she asked the crazy question. I call it the crazy question: how are you? Right? People ask us all the time, how are we? And we're just like, I'm fine. And so I'm like, that was the crossroad for me. Like, do I say how I really am, or do I just say I'm okay? And I said how I really was. And I just kind of ran through all the stuff I just told you all about. I feel like I'm not seen or heard in my home, and I'm doing all this work, and I got all this money, and I'm miserable, but I don't think that's allowed, And so I actually canceled the model casting. I turn around and I say, and now when I'm canceling the model casting, I am a horrible mom who is making their kids, I'm like not a good momager. I'm making my kids miss out on their opportunity to make it big. Like all of this crazy stuff is going through my head because I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And I get on a plane the next day and I go to DC for a business conference. Amanda Miller Littlejohn, she does a bunch of PR work. And so this is the retreat at the end of our cohort. And when I walk in there, there's a therapist at the front of the room. And I'm like, this is a business conference. What? Now I have huge stigmas against mental health care, huge. And I'm like, this is a business conference. Oh, these are not my people. And so, so I go in there and she's like, she's talking about mental blocks and how they affect business, like concepts I had never really heard. And they were all saying, you know, like, well, by the end of this, we're all gonna cry. And I was thinking, like, first of all, Tiffany doesn't cry. And second of all, Tiffany does not cry with strangers. And so, needless to say, as everyone began to share, I was thinking about the conversation the day before. And what did she say? And so I raised my hand and I said, well, I run a whole business based on bringing kids joy, based on bringing people joy and creating play experiences, and all of the experiences are fun. So, you know, like, how can the queen of play be sad? And she went on to explain this concept about the wounded healer and how we're often giving people what we wish we had. And before y'all know it, I was in tears and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I cried. I went home, I found a therapist. So like and again, I bring this back full circle to say, I have all these thoughts in my mind about what it meant to be a strong Black woman, about what it meant to be living this good enough life, about, you know, things that I had been taught about mental health care is not for strong people. And yet just seeing a Black woman stand commanding, giving us permission to feel and explaining it scientifically, because again, I'm an accountant by trade. So like things got to add up. But when she started giving me those terms and I could Google them and they were real, you know, terms in psychology, it was just wowing to me. So the one thing I would say to anybody listening who's trying to find their way is just to be really open-minded and to be willing to let go of some of the strongholds that you've had around what success means, what good enough is. You know, if you don't feel joyful, happy, and that, you know, doesn't mean everything's going to always be easy, but on the inside, if you're feeling like something is wrong, most of the time it really is. And just lean into that and look for the helpers, because Nori was a helper I wasn't expecting. I certainly wasn't expecting the therapist at the business conference. And nothing, if neither of those things nor that phone call had happened where I just chose to be honest about how I was feeling, I definitely wouldn't have ended up in therapy. Which changed the trajectory of my entire life.
It did. And, you know, thank you for sharing and answering that call, because I think a lot of times, especially female founders, like entrepreneurs, we hear the call, but we don't answer it, right? Because we're like, well, they ain't talking about me. I'm not the person they talking about, because last time I checked, I'm good, you know? So it's really powerful that you gave yourself permission to answer that call and then to show up at it consistently, because personal development and really mindset, self-trust, anything that delves deep into your psyche, your subconscious, and brings these things to surface. This work, it's not easy work. Like, it's not work. I'm not gonna say it's not easy, because, you know, I don't like to speak that on people, but it's the type of work that requires more energy than you want to invest in the moment, right? Because it really pulls you in.
It's so true. And I think that the word not easy is because we expect it to be easy. We're taught that it should be easy.
Yes.
We're told like, oh, you can't get your mind right. Like, you should be able to get your mind right. Oh, you can't get your thoughts together. Oh, you should be able to get your thoughts together. We're taught that like lifting something is heavy, hard work, or running fast. Like all of the things that require movement are hard work. And we're taught that sitting still is being lazy, is being less than. So when you dig into the fact that personal development, it requires you to be still and requires you to sit with your thoughts. You're thinking like, I'm wasting time. And that's what, and so then I'm speaking generally, but for me, I thought like, it's wasting time. I should know this. I'm weak if I don't. And so that's where like the unpacking of the self-limiting beliefs is really, it's really the hard work. And if we think about it, like everything in life is hard work. So why on earth would like getting your mind right be the easy thing to do?
You know, and it's the thing that we don't work at as consistently. So if anything, it is going to be very challenging to do this because you don't really do it like that. If you're not someone that has ever ran and I'm like, go run a marathon, you're going to look at me like, wait, I need to train for this. I need to get a little bit of context. I need to step back a little bit before I can go and run this marathon. And it's the same thing with our mindset where, excuse me, we don't spend a lot of time unpacking the type of work that it requires to work within the mindset, right? And earlier you were talking about being honest with yourself. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of being honest with yourself?
Looking in the mirror is rough, right? If you think about like the Beyonce song, I woke up like this, like, did you really? And if we think about how we look when we wake up, like that's what it feels like to be honest with yourself. And to really cheerlead and self-correct is a crazy dichotomy, right? It's like, okay, we got to check our negative self-talk so we're not saying too many negative things. We got to cheer ourselves on at the same time. And in the middle, we got to be realistic. Like, whoa, that requires strength, resilience, tenacity, courage. You know what I mean? To admit that you're not perfect, but not beat yourself up, to just fully accept who you are. I did this photo shoot a few weeks ago and I have on this cute dress. It's banging. And what do I do? But I'm like, I see one little piece. I swear on my whole left leg, I have one piece of cellulite, one piece. If these are one little jelly bit, I can see it in the picture. Like, why, sis? And nobody else is looking at that. Like, what are you doing?
Nobody worried about it except you. You're like, they see it. I see it. It's seen. You need to Photoshop this. I need a whole new outfit, a whole new look.
Thing. And so whether we're talking about the piece of cellulite on our leg or our level of organization or where we are in comparison to where we think we should be, you know, like looking at yourself is difficult, but necessary work. And so I guess I want to say too, just to your statement of like, let's not say it's not easy because then people shy away from it, but like what is easy?
Right.
And what worth having is easy. People who get these, you know, high esteemed financial careers, like that wasn't easy. People who run marathons, that isn't easy. So no. People who eat well, like it's not easy. So why all of a sudden do we think that the work of perfecting ourselves or getting ourselves to design lives that we love or to trust ourselves, why is the assumption that that should be easy? It's so funny because everything I have ever judged turned out to be the exact things that I needed. My best friend who lives in Australia right now, she was a psychology major in college. And I was just like, you just want the easy way out. You want to write some papers. You just want to write some papers and talk about how people feel. I'm going to be an accountant. That really matters. Like, girl, crazy accountants blowing out their brains and the psychologist sitting over there zen as a mother. Like, cut it out. So I think that we really like unlearning. The beauty is in the unlearning.
Thank you for sharing that, especially because unlearning is so challenging. Like when you are creating, so to get a little nerdy, yeah, I know I love a nerd moment. When in the brain, we have this thing called neural pathways, right? So you want to think about neural pathway as like a trail between two destinations. And the more you walk on that trail, the more clear and defined that trail becomes. The less you walk on that trail, the more weed and grass and eventually trees grow on that trail, and it's harder to navigate them. And a lot of us, when it comes to self-trust and self-mastery, we have not necessarily walked that trail before. And when we're going at it the first time, we tight because we feel like it's blocks everywhere. How come I can't make it, right? So we turn back and we think we're going the wrong way. Instead of thinking, well, let me just go and pull up my machete, pull up the tractor, whatever I need, because we need to cut some stuff through here as we're going through this so that we can create some space because we haven't been here before. But I think that the fear of failure really gets into us, especially because we live in a society that glorifies perfection on the first try, that punishes people that try and fail and feel like I should have gotten right the first time. And that has such a big impact on our ability to be business owners, our ability to even be parents, to be in relationships that are healthy. And we're like, okay, well, this is not working. I need to deuce it up. And now suddenly everybody's looking at you crazy. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, you have to stay with this person and you can't leave and blah, 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 blah. Even if you're feeling like this doesn't feel healthy, this doesn't feel like love, doesn't feel like compassion, I have to exit this space. So when you're talking about overcoming these challenges and working through these challenges, how has failing fast and failing forward helped you in your journey?
Every day I learn to fail faster and faster.
Yes.
Every day I learned that failing fast is the way forward. The old me, and this could be the last week old me, hold on. That she don't know how to let, like, girl, fail fast, because then you're not drawing it out. And
Yes.
honestly, whichever road you decide to take, I truly believe, I'm a music nerd, and I never put how deep Nas's lyrics on It Was Written, how real that was. But I believe about my whole life, like, it's written. So whether or not you hold on long or decide to fail fast, what's gonna happen is gonna happen. So if you decide to take the long road, this journey I've been on has been since 2017. I'm pretty sure, to get me to where I am today, I'm pretty sure if I had the ability, knowledge, and skills to take the same steps that I have taken now in 2017. I just decided to take the long road and resist and fight the whole way. I decided to fail over the course of, I'll say I've been pretty good for a year and a half. I decided to take 2.5 years to fail forward, as opposed to just like getting it done. And when we don't step out on faith and take the leap and follow our intuition, and that doesn't mean, I'm divorced now. And so that, for me, I'm almost divorced. I've been divorcing. So that doesn't mean, leave relationships. That certainly means try. That certainly means communicate. That certainly means do all the things that you can to keep positive, happy, healthy relationships, workplaces, what circumstances in place. But once you have done that and tried and negotiated and navigated and given people time to be in healthy relationship, regardless of whether that's, marital or familial or whatever, you have to do what's best for you. You have to be happy, healthy, and whole. And as long as you are taking steps to make sure that you are happy, healthy, and whole, the failures are just lessons. It's just you learning along the way. And as I always teach my son, and this shows how ingrained it is in us early from societally. He plays basketball, and I always tell him, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. You never lose, period. Yes. And he's always like, no, sometimes I lose. And I'd be like, only if you choose. I'm always hitting with something that, like, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. If you find a lesson in it, it's not a loss, period. And then, like, we don't live with regrets, only lessons. Like, around here, no regrets, only lessons. And so the only people who are not failing or learning or, learning from their losses are people who are not in the ring, who are not trying. Those ones who you said turned around and went back the other way because they're settling for the good enough life is safe. Like, the good enough life is safe. So they get into those weeds and they like, whoa, no, I'm gonna stay right here.
Too much.
And again, that's a choice, and it's no shade. I stayed for a long time in a lot of things, but learning to fail fast has been a superpower. Going back and retreating and quitting is just settling for the good enough life. And the good enough life, like, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you're happy in that space. My problem was I didn't want the good enough life. I wanted this life that was what I wanted to design a life I loved. And so every day that I was sitting in a good enough life, I was mad about it. So now I'm a happy person who unhappy because I'm sitting in the life I chose to sit in because I don't want to do the work to design the life I love. So it just came to like, do you want it or do you not?
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you talk about basically the only people that lose are the people that are not in the ring, right? The people that are not there putting the fight and at least showing up for themselves in one way or another. So we've talked a lot about challenges and overcoming these challenges. And I want us to get into how has building your self-trust? How has our work together propelled you forward? Where are you now? You know, when you started working together, you were still trying to sort some things out and navigate the transitions in your life. And I'm curious on, we've been at it for, it feels like forever, but it has been like 4 months almost. How are you now?
How about a magical 4 months? What I will say about this whole process is that it shows you that even though it's hard work, it doesn't have to be belabored and it doesn't have to take long. The 4 months feels like forever, but honestly, I was gaining momentum from day one. You know, and part of that again was just me in the unlearning. So I built, like, just having the model and seeing the model that you presented about what self-trust is. And I remember the first day I ever saw it and I was like, oh, I'm number 3. And by the time we unpacked it, it's like, girl, you at number 1 all day. Like, you are at number 1. And number 3 is available to you, but we gonna start back here at number 1. And it wasn't like you didn't even, I don't think you even said those words to me. It was just the more I listened to the teachings and the trainings and understood the definitions and the feelings, emotions, and actions at each level, you face yourself and you realize, okay, you can say you at number 3 if you feel like it's gonna make Nori feel good. But if you want to be real with yourself and you really want to progress through this thing, recognize where you are, follow the steps, and move on. And so even as a person who teaches the concepts of resilience, I was great at resilience, but I was not very kind to myself. I had tons of negative self-talk. I don't think I can. I don't want to. And it wasn't even, or people would give me compliments. Even you would be like, "You're amazing," and I'll be like, "She just saying that. Like, why she just gotta say it?" And so what I had to unpack was, it wasn't even my own negative, my own disbelief in myself. I had the voices of, and I can identify about 3 people who had told me what I wasn't, what I couldn't, what I shouldn't, what I never, all the things, like a whack-a-mole, boom, 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 boom. Those voices I had allowed to become so loud in my head from childhood to, now, that I was taking the words of 3 people and letting it drown out the cheers of hundreds. Like, why? And without the self-trust system, I wouldn't have come to that, because it helps me to identify that, to unpack that, and to see, just like have a really realistic lens and say, okay, if you could pick up $3 or $100, which one would you pick? If you could get 3 houses or have 100 places you could go stay across the nation, which one would you pick? So, like, why are you picking to hear the voices of 3 people and let them be so loud in your own head? And honestly, without the self-trust system, because of the self-trust system, I'm able to serve the women in She Plays so much better, because I was still kind of stuck in that duality of, I'm teaching stuff that I know that works, and I have implemented it in my own life, and I have helped my clients implement it in their lives, and they're seeing progress. But at home, I was still stuck in all of these modes of self-doubt in spurts. I could show up on camera and ta-da, but every day I was still struggling. And that self-trust system really just helped me to, like, break down those barriers, do the work.
Oh my God, this is so dope. Like, when we create, when you're a coach, a consultant, a healer, whatever you call yourself, when you're creating your work, this is what you dream about. You dream about your clients being able to utilize these tools and transforming their lives, because you good. Like, you good at the end of the day, because you can only control yourself. So you create these tools so that the people that you work, the people that you serve, they can get to that level where they want to be, the level where they feeling like, you know what? Life is not perfect. I'm not exempt from the challenges that come with having a human experience. I'm not exempt from discomfort. I'm not exempt from being asked to be pushed a little bit beyond my comfort zone or my safe space. But I do get to live the life I want to live if I'm willing to work for it, if I'm willing to go after it. And it sounds to me like you're getting closer and closer, and really more at that place now than before. So I do want us to talk a little bit about how She Plays has thrived and grown since you, as the core of the business, have been able to remove these blocks and these barriers. Tell us, tell us,
Oh, I was
tell
like, can
us.
we talk about it? Can we talk about it? So
Can
literally, I
we
ran the
talk? Let me not sing
I
no more because they're gonna flag me.
I ran purposeful play until 2020. Like it really stopped with the pandemic. And She Plays had always been a passion project that I had played with, right? And so I first used it to free myself. And then I, went along this path. I created a proprietary methodology on how to get unblocked, how to get unstuck, how to be resilient. In 2019 in 2018 and 2019, I did small local activations where we would have like events where women would come in for a day of play, where we would like dig into deep issues around purpose and self-love and ambition and youthfulness. But then we'd also like, it would be gamified in some way so that we were giving, time back to ourselves. Well, in 2020, I hosted the first annual International Women's Day of Play, and women across the nation, Mexico, Australia, and Canada came together for an online event that was literally 8 hours long of just like back to back equity among financial, physical, and emotional well-being gamified, right? And so women were looking like 8 hours on Zoom to do what with who? Yeah, we like you, Tiff, but it's not happening. And at the end of it, though, they still bought their tickets like, we're gonna support you, girl. But they stayed on all day long. The results were phenomenal. We got picked up by media. It was just a phenomenal experience. And I thought a little bit like that was the tip of the iceberg, but I really didn't know how I was going to monetize it beyond that, and or how I was going to create impact, because I'm always about doing things that merge your income and your impact, because that's a win-win, right? We spend too much time at work to not like what we're doing. And so when you and I got together, I knew, I had started a membership, but I wasn't enthralled by the results that it was getting. It was lackluster. It didn't have I feed off of people's energy, and the women in the group were probably used to me being very present, like a certain time, and they had set aside that time to play, and that was it. So this ongoing idea of like making play a way of life was just kind of, they weren't leaning into it. And so it took my energy back. So I had to redesign how I would do this. And I decided with your help to like lean more into the corporate space. I had this big struggle about, do I go direct to consumer or do I go into the corporate space? And so I really just leaned into the corporate space, and I was able to secure a keynote with TransUnion. Everyone in the United States basically knows what TransUnion is. If you have a credit bureau report, you know who they are, right? It's the main sport that most of the people choose. And they had a women's group there that I was able to secure a keynote with. They went on to ask me to increase my contract. And then I was able to also secure space in their global podcast. So people across the world were hearing my voice and have since sent back tons of accolades on LinkedIn and social media. Like my influence has just grown in that space. And I have a meeting with them in order to elongate the work that I'm going to do there. I have 3 other corporations who are actively seeking me as a speaker to come out and to share these tips and tools with the women leaders in their organizations as well. And then I've gotten connected with organizations who have made a commitment to gender equity in corporations by the year 2030. So by diversifying their female workforce and empowering them with the tools they need. So like, oh my God, wait, what? Next thing. On top of that, which just happened recently. So I'm releasing a course soon. It should be out mid-June. It's called She Plays to Win. And that is the direct to consumer piece that will really be a program. So not just like a do it yourself program. And I definitely, I don't want people to just be motivated. I want them to actually take action. So it'll happen over 6 weeks. And we'll come together once a week to kind of go through. It'll be very experiential. So just like the International Women's Day of Play, we'll have things to do. We can come back and elevate and celebrate each other. But just randomly, because I've been moving in purpose, just this past week, out of nowhere, I got a proposal, pitched to me, kind of like I pitched myself to you. Hey, will you work with me? Someone who I had helped with some business development in the past came to me saying, it's my 35th birthday. I'm ready. I really, I've seen what you've helped other brands do, people who wanted to leave their jobs and start their own thing. And I really am committed to doing the work this time. I can pay you X number of dollars to, help rewrite my business plan. And kind of give some steps along that way. Let's do this from the Dominican Republic over 7 days with airfare and hotel. And I'm just like, oh, is this what happens when you trust yourself? This what happens when you So, Nori, it has been amazing. And I'm just like, oh, well, if this what happened when you trust yourself and you do it afraid, I'm here for it, And so I am just, in my mind, the sky is the limit as to what is to come. I'm the International Women's Day of Play happens the second Saturday in October every year. There's talk of making it a 3-day event instead of a single day, just so that we can pour deeper into people in spurts that work for them. And I know this course is gonna change the world. I trust myself.
I could literally cry right now, just hearing you. You see, what y'all don't know is that we were in a few breakdowns just a few weeks ago. That's the part that y'all don't know. You know what I'm saying? And that's to show that just because you're going through something, just because you are being challenged and you may not see the light, doesn't mean that the sun is not shining on you. Right. And as long as you remain obedient, as long as you are walking in your purpose, as long as you're trusting yourself, this is why it's so important to get to that place when you're like, yo, I don't trust me the way I want to trust me, so that you can put the systems in place so that you can trust yourself. And it is uncomfortable. It does require work. But when you do this, you create room for so much more and more of the things that you want in a way that makes the most sense for you, because it's been a little bit of a journey for you to get to this place.
My Lord. Nori knows legit breakdowns, legit. I'm human, and again, I'm dealing with a ton at one time. And I think that even though I was supposedly a superwoman in recovery, I had banished superwoman syndrome, and now I just wanted to be a super space woman. There were still so many self-limiting beliefs about what I should be able to handle, what things the word should. I remember Nori would ask me questions and I would answer, well, I think, and she would say, well, do you think or do you know? You think? Are you? And it was just the decide what you decided was a good thing. You know what I mean? It's been an amazing journey. And I think that the swiftness with which we've been able to make this progress lies in the fact that I was open-minded, that I was willing to do the work. So many times people hire coaches and then they get all the answers. Why you hire us? If you already know all the things, which I get it, it's hard. But when you hire a coach, especially to do this life work, you have to be open-minded. It doesn't mean to follow anybody blindly, but it definitely means to be willing to unlearn, to be willing to try some things. I don't know if the cold showers are insider secret, but
go ahead. Let's talk about the cold showers.
But it's, some of Nori's tactics, I definitely was looking with the side eye, like the people were looking at me with the side eye about the 8-hour Zoom play day, but they loved it. And I have loved every bit of them. They have changed to who I am as a person. Again, people always think you have it all together just by on the outside looking in. And so Nori has certainly been a place where I could just be like, but girl, I don't. And we've moved through some things and I have come out better for it.
Yes. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm going to give you a little bit of context because she mentioned this cold showers and I know y'all probably like, what are you talking about? I want to be in the inside. So one of the things I work with my clients on is taking responsibility for themselves, right? Tiffany alluded to this a little bit earlier, where we have to be kind to ourselves in the process, but still be able to self-correct and still be able to take action without getting caught up in all of that, right? And for many of us, that looks like parenting ourselves. That look like us being like, hey, these are things that you said you wasn't going to do. This is that you said you're doing that you said we were not going to do. So holding ourselves accountable is a big part of this process. And there's a practical way that I utilize to help my clients navigate that. And that's to have them take cold showers. How was the first time I brought that up to you?
I read it in the group, and I did the same thing that I did with when I walked in that room with the therapist. Like, oh, they crazy. I know Nori, but I don't know where she read this is crazy. And then I was just like I did in that room with the therapist. Like, once you explained to me the why behind it, once I read and Google, because I'm a Google everything. One of my friends, whenever he tells me something, he be like, Google it. I know you're gonna Google it. Like, you gotta confirm it for yourself. But it was so true. And the premise behind the cold shower was it, however you react to that is mirrors how you react to discomfort in your life. It was so true. It was almost like a science experiment. Like, wait a minute, this is the hypothesis, and then I go and do it, and then it really happened. So my first cold shower, I was looking at the shower like we was in a fight. And I was definitely backed up in the corner, but I was ready. Like, it was just psychologically bizarre. And everybody I have told to be like, yeah, you and Nori have fun with that. I'd be like, I'm telling you, it changed my life. But I did have one person say they were going to try it, but I was in the corner. I tried to soap up my whole body first and then just hop in to like rinse off. And that is how I approach conflict. I like size it up. All right, you're not gonna get me. You're not bigger, you're not better. And then I kind of like put on my wardrobe, whatever that is. I'm resilient, I am strong, I am healthy, I am whatever that armor is. I would equate that to myself. And then I kind of just like hop out there like, nah, I got you. And literally it was the same. Now, I didn't stay in that water long that time, but it has been a progressive journey. And every time I'm scared, I hop in a cold shower. It's so funny.
I love that, because I remember when you finally did it, you was like, now whenever I see myself doing something that I'm like, you say you wasn't going to do that, I'm like, girl, you got in the cold shower, you know what to do. And then I remember that conversation when you were like, I was told I had to do these bunch of things and I did not feel like doing them. So I said, you're going to get in that cold shower, and until you get out this shower with all these things planned, you can't get out. Okay. And that was like your way of being accountable with yourself, utilizing that discomfort and using discomfort as an ally. And when I talk about using discomfort as an ally, that's really what I'm talking about. Like, you can rewire your brain. That's literally you going down that neural pathway and cleaning that up and being like, this is what we're going to do. This is your tool for cleaning the entire path is discomfort. It's going into the cold showers, and you can practically measure it. You can know, like, I was there for 30 seconds today. I'm there for a minute yet tomorrow. Like, you literally can measure your progress. And I think it's such a powerful tool that can really help us utilize it so that we can work with our own discomfort and be okay with it. I mean, I learned about the cold showers through this Dutch athlete. I think he calls himself Iceman. And when I learned about them, it was really about helping your lymphatic system. It was about helping you just be exposed to colder temperatures, because we're constantly in warm temperatures. So it was really about physical elements of it. But then when I started getting into it, I was like, oh, there's a whole mental piece to this that she did not plan for. Because let me tell you something, there's a reason why I live in Florida. I am not someone that's trying to be in the cold. I'm not trying to go up north in the cold. Like, when you want me to come to New York? No, I'm not coming unless it's the summer months. I'm not coming. So doing those cold showers really helped me work on my mental, help me take control of the mind, because those thoughts are not who we are, right? And when we can create that separation between those thoughts and ourselves and still take action, then we can really experience that magic. And, you know, it's really fun, because everybody be like, yeah, girl, I ain't doing this. And then it'd be like, all right, so I tried the cold showers and this is how you went. And then it's like, okay, it's me in this cold showers now. Like we're not gonna play this game no more.
That is so funny and so real. Yes, the thing you're talking about was me planning my podcast and doing my podcast intro. It was overdue. And I was like, if you don't do it, you can't get out the cold shower. And the funniest thing is my producers, the people who are doing the production work for me for my podcast, were like, this doesn't sound like you. You don't sound happy, and we reject this. Like they didn't take the ones that I created once I came out of the cold shower. And then when I told them, well, I got it done, I told them what I did, they was like, no wonder you sound like you had just been tormented, which was so funny. But what that did do, so I ended up re-recording them, but it it broke the fear. It broke the cycle of fear of, how do I sound? What will they think? What's the right thing? How many words? It stopped the pattern of overthinking, and it just prompted me into action. And that's what I loved about it so much.
Thank you. Oh my God, so much. I could literally talk to you for hours. And this is literally what we say every time we have our one-on-ones. We can talk for hours, right? So you have some things coming up. I know you mentioned you have your podcast. I want you to tell us about that. Where can people find you on social?
Where does Tiff reside? Where does Tiff reside?
Where is Tiffany reside so she can collect those coins? You hear me? This is what it's about. It's about us manifesting the life that we want. And that is the life of luxury. It's a life of abundance. We don't need to be out here in the streets not getting these coins. Like, yes, we can work on ourselves. We can help other people work on themselves. And we can also be compensated for that at a level that we want to be compensated for, as long as we deliver the value that comes from that level, right? So tell us, where does Tiffany reside?
So I can be found on all the socials as She Plays CO. She Plays .co. And if you look for me there, I'm probably right now most active on Instagram. Thanks to Nori, I'm about to get my Pinterest games together. I've publicly said it, so now it has to happen. But She Plays .co on Facebook and Instagram. On LinkedIn, I am Tiffany Gratton McDuffie. And so, yeah, that's where you can find me. The podcast is called Passport to Play. We are letting our dreams take flight. Everybody wants to say they don't want to turn cartwheels. They don't want to swing on swings, but everybody wants to travel. So this is your passport to play. This is your you can stamp your passport every time you intentionally schedule pockets of joy to help you get to the life that you love. And I believe that it's possible. I'm proof that it's possible. Nori is proof that it's possible. You can do the work that you love, make a great living doing so, impact others. There was such a limiting belief that I had about the intangibleness of this work. I thought as a CPA, I delivered financials, I delivered, attestations, all these fancy sounding things. As a insurance professional, I helped protect people's assets and make sure that they were restored back to how they were. So of course they'd pay. As a youth development person, I not only provided basically child care services, but I also helped to uplift and empower children. Well, what do you mean you a life coach? What do you mean you build resilience? What do you mean, what does that mean? Oh, you just, creating a feeling. But no, the work we do changes lives, right? And it takes me back to, I was on the cover of Milwaukee Magazine for my youth services work. You're so silly. And in there, they quote me and I say how, the kids go to school to learn math and they go to learn science, but I teach them how to believe in themselves, how to keep going when they want to quit, and how to bounce back when hard things happen. There's no class for that. And they're addicted to tablets and technology, and there's no app for that. So this people work that I judged is the exact work that the scientists, the mathematics, the insurance, all the people need, you know what I mean? And so I have arrived, and I can't wait to see where I go and grow. And I'm just happy to have had you on this journey and in this path. It has been life-changing indeed.
Oh my God, you're so awesome. And I know you believe that. I
believe it.
That you awesome, because I know we worked with that too. What
I
would
believe it. I believe it. It's like, again, that getting those three voices out. So yeah, catch me on the social, sheplays.co. She Plays to Win. It's a mindset. It's available to us all.
go ahead and catch Tiffany in all social platforms. I'm gonna make sure I drop all her contact and stuff too, so that y'all can connect with her. So when is the podcast dropping?
It is dropping June 1st.
Okay, so when the podcast drops June 1st, so when the course drops, so y'all are ready to get your play life together, because we need to be able to play too, y'all. It's not just about work, work, work. That's why I completely unsubscribe from the hustle mentality. I completely unsubscribe from the sleep when you die mentality. That's not the energy that I'm bringing to my life. Like, I'm trying to rest in between. I'm trying to enjoy my life in between. I'm trying to live fully, authentically in all elements, and so can you. So definitely check out Tiffany, because she's super amazing. I work only with the most amazing people. So, if she coming on here, it's because she's the truth. If not, she won't be up in here. Tiffany, what would you tell someone? What are your parting words to someone who's considering getting into this work, maybe with me or whatever, or another person? Like, what would be the words that you would say with them as they are making that consideration? And what will be the thing that you leave them with?
Literally, these are the adjectives: up-leveled, life-changing, sister circle, even if it's of two. But the rest of the crew is also very powerful. Just helps you lean into yourself. Helps you lean into yourself. A person is good when you do the work. When you're a person who does the work and you come to a person to do the work for you, with you, right? It's like, I'm a CPA, but I have a bookkeeper. So my bookkeeper is together. Like, I help people with this life work. So if I'm coming, and Nori is my coach. So that means Nori is together, because I too only mess with the best of the best. So it will change your life.
Thank you, my dear. So much fun having you, Tiffany. I definitely feel like right before you drop your awesomeness, we have to come back and chat with us more and give us an update on how these things have gone for you. And definitely shout out more to your podcast and the things that you're working on. And I'm just really excited for you. Like, I remember us having this conversation when you were in your car and you were like, I shouldn't have to feel like this. I should not have to go deal with any of this. And then having that moment where you were like, I am dealing with it. Ugh, I don't like it, but I'm dealing with it. And knowing in that moment that you had to experience that to get to where you are now, and to see you literally, I mean, if you listen and you're not seeing her, you need to just hop onto the YouTube channel so you can see her, because she's glowing. And that's really what this is about. A lot of times we are so afraid of the darkness, but the darkest hours are before the sun rises, right? So you are a manifestation of that sun rising. You are a manifestation of that joy, of that work, of what comes from doing that work. And I am just so elated to be able to be a part of your team and to see you shine, because, I love you. You're my boo.
I love you.
I'm going to call you out, but, I love you.
I love you back. I love you back.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. And it's so great to have you. And I will see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nori.
Thank you.